Hey, good afternoon to you. It's now 4:06 News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We're making sense of the news. Coming up this hour, an attorney for the family of Rachel Morin joins us. Randolph Rice will be here. Rachel, murdered last year at the hands of an illegal alien. We will get the latest on that tragic story and the family's reaction coming up at 4:30. Then 5 o'clock, we talk about the economy and what President Trump hopes to do should he return to the White House. E.J. Antoni will be here at 5. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. From the national level to the local level, we have all sorts of insanity in the government. In Loudoun County, Virginia, infamous Loudoun County, the school board yesterday met to discuss a policy designed to stop what WJLA, Nick Minnock over there, refers to as, they want to stop public and private criticism of the school board. I just want to reiterate the two words I used, public and private criticism. Don't you dare in your living room say something negative about the Loudoun County School Board. They're specifically trying to stop this criticism from school board members' staff aides. That is, the people who work for the school board members. If the school board approves the policy, aides would be required to refrain from conduct that disparages, criticizes, or defames the school board members, LCPS, and LCPS employees, either publicly or privately, or that interferes with the implementation of a decision made by the school board. The impetus for this policy change? Apparently, there's an aide who works for the Loudoun County School Board who doesn't like boys in the girls' locker rooms, who is a mother in Loudoun County, is a taxpayer in Loudoun County, and would like to be represented, her views, have her views represented. That woman joins us now, I'm so happy to say. Abbie Platt is here. She's an aide to Deanna Griffith, who is a Loudoun County School Board member in the Ashburn District. Abbie's also a mother of 3 Loudoun students, and she joins us on the phone. Abbie, great to have you with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. I appreciate it.
So take me back to your concerns in Loudoun County. You're very close to all of this. You're a mother of 3 Loudoun County students. You pay taxes in Loudoun County. You know how the school board operates. In fact, you work for one of the school board members. So what did you see that concerned you?
Well, this goes years back, right? We have a daughter in high school and one in middle and one in elementary. So we've been in Loudoun County schools for a long time. When they very first adopted policy 8040, which opens up the bathrooms to whomever wants to do whatever, our son was standing at a urinal in the 5th grade, and a girl in his class walked in and stood right next to him and stared him down. That was our first exposure to what this policy would mean for our family. It's a total violation of privacy. And so, of course, back then I began to speak. I've been going to school board meetings for years. Then fast forward, and at the time that policy passed, we were most concerned about our daughter, who at the time was in middle school, because of PE and changing her clothes. Mm-hmm. It never in a million years would have occurred to us that it'd be our little boys in elementary school that would have that first exposure. But then, last year, sure enough, our daughter, who had then, graduated and gone up to high school, there was a boy in the girls' locker room, or a boy in the girls' locker room. And we said, hold on, this is not acceptable. So I have been advocating for the safety of my children for years.
Yes.
My association and work with Deanna is relatively new. I've only been working with her for a couple of months, and surely they don't want to hear any criticism from me or anyone else. But this policy is directed specifically at staff aides.
Was one of the reasons you decided to start working as an aide for the Loudoun County School Board was because you wanted to get closer to this in order to affect change positively? Is that why you're there?
100%. Yeah. So when Deanna ran for school board, I didn't know her at all. I didn't have any connection to her, but she was challenging Harris Mehedavi, who was running for re-election, one of only two running for re-election, and he was poised to become the chair. And we said, no way. Harris Mehedavi had lied to his community of Muslims and told them that he was opposed to policy 8040, which he shepherded through committee. It was with his help that it went to the full board. So for me, that was a flagship item. I thought, no way. I'll do anything I can to defeat that guy. And there was a group of us who worked our tails off to help Deanna get elected. And then at that point, she said, would you consider continuing to help me? And I said yes.
So now you're an aide for her, and again, Loudoun County taxpayer. You've been voicing your concerns about all of this, and all of a sudden, the Loudoun County School Board is looking for a way, it looks like, to silence you in particular. Is that how you read it?
It feels they're pointed. At the committee meeting that they held yesterday, they typically, what happens, you come in and there's a piece of paper there's a desk where speakers, can make public comment. You walk in, you sign your name on the paper. There was no paper. And we learned that, no, it's now online. You have to sign up in advance online. This has never been the practice. There were two other committee meetings that happened yesterday. Both had the same disclosure on the agenda. In retrospect, when I went back to the agenda, sure enough, it said it didn't have public participation on there. So if I had keyed into that, I would have seen it. But regardless, it seems pretty intentional that would be removed from an agenda, and remarkably, there were three people. Somehow they knew. I still cannot find anything online. And if anyone should know the process, it's me, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
So somehow three people were able to be alerted to sign up in advance online, which again has never been the practice, not for committees.
No,
so it does feel pretty personal.
And there's also the history this year. The Loudoun County School Board has been moving to clamp down more and more on kind of these embarrassing episodes where people rightfully point to their sins and shortcomings, and they don't want this publicized. In fact, they have moved to turn off the cameras during public comment. They do not want citizens and their concerns and complaints being publicized. And in fact, Nick Minnock at WJLA points out that decision came after Muslims, Christians, and Hindus all came to a February 27th meeting this year and spoke out against this policy you're talking about. And in Loudoun County, they've tried to really shut down any ability for the public to see this.
That is exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. They don't want to hear from the public. They don't want to see them. They will go to any length to squelch First Amendment rights.
So what were you thinking? You were at the meeting last night?
I was there, and I'll confess, I was mad. I was livid. I walked out of there livid. I always think, okay, I know when I'm walking into that place, when I go and I'm on the time card, right, I stamp the time card, I'm in a different place. But when I walk in there as a parent, and that's what that's what this policy seeks to do, is to say you cannot in private, not publicly or privately, interfere with the implementation of any policy. So they're trying to say to me, sorry, you check your parent card at the door, and not just at the admin door, at my own home. And I'm sorry, that's unacceptable. It's unconstitutional, and there's absolutely no way that I will stop advocating for the safety and the education of my children. There's no way.
It's one of the craziest things I've ever heard of. The school board policy is that if you criticize the school board members as an active aid to the school board, that you will run afoul of their policies, and not just in public, in private. If you do it within the confines of your own living room, you'd be in trouble.
That's the way the policy reads. If it's adopted in its current suggested form, yes, that would be true.
So what's going to happen now? I mean, they're considering this. Does that mean it's actually going to come to pass?
If I were betting, they have the votes. They absolutely have the votes. And one board member, who I will not publicly criticize, even said, we talk in our own home about freedom of speech, but you're not free from the consequences of what you say. And I thought, it's astounding. It is astounding to me, the kind of language and the extent they'll go to silence anyone who, heaven forbid, does not agree with them. It's astounding.
Is it just my imagination, or is this the single most sensitive group of people that has ever lived in this country? They are so scared of people being critical of them. They're supposed to be serving the public.
I think they're arrogant. I think they're entitled, and they feel that they can do whatever they want to get whatever they want, and it is wrong.
It's amazing. So in the event that they do pass this, what kind of consequences could they impose on you if you dare criticize them from your living room or perhaps even on a radio program? What would happen to you?
Well, I would be fired for sure. I would be fired immediately.
So they want to get rid of you. The plan
know.
is to silence you, or at least to get rid of you.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? If this passes, what's your plan?
I will absolutely show up at the next school board meeting and I will speak, because I am a parent first. And these are my kids. I think for me, there are so many raw edges in the coming and going with family. And our kids spend an enormous amount of time in these schools. So above all else, I'm a parent. And so, I'm happy to get fired. I'm happy to get fired. And if they want to break the law doing so, then I welcome that. I welcome the exposure that will come from speaking the truth and shining light on an organization that continues to disregard the law. I'm happy to have that conversation all day long, every day.
Well, God bless you for this.
I welcome it.
And Abbie, I have to believe we're talking to Abbie Platt, again, an aide to Deanna Griffith, one of the Loudoun County School Board members. My impression is that Deanna Griffith has been very supportive of you and will continue to be.
She has, and bless her for that. She ran a campaign based on transparency and on accountability to taxpayers and to her constituents. And to her great credit, they've tried to twist her arm and keep her from speaking as well. So I've appreciated the opportunity to work with her, and she's had my back, and she has stood up to them herself.
Yes.
So
well,
it's just,
Abbie, please keep up the good fight. Please keep taking these fascists on. You have a welcome place on this radio program and inside of all of the homes of everyone in Loudoun County who listens to WMAL anytime you want. We'd be so grateful to have you on. If they want to give you and the parents of Loudoun County hell, then we will return it to them. So thank you very much for coming on, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's Abbie Platt. Abbie Platt, who's a mother in Loudoun County, a taxpayer in Loudoun County, doesn't like seeing the abuse that's being perpetrated on the children in Loudoun County, dared to speak up, and now the fascists on the Loudoun County School Board are looking to silence her and ruin her life. We'll keep tracking that story. What an insane story, huh? Loudoun County School Board looking to destroy the First Amendment rights of a mother who doesn't want her son in the same bathroom with girls or her daughter in the same locker room with boys, and yet that's what Loudoun County has done to the family, done to the kids there in Loudoun County. She raised concerns, and now they're looking to destroy her life over it. They want to get her fired for daring to raise that issue. Nora's in Clifton on line 2. Nora, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Colonnese Show.
Yes, hello. I was just going to say the reason that they're so bold is because they have unlimited tax dollars to push back against parents legally. And whenever they're challenged on not respecting your child's rights in any way, including special needs, and you try to challenge them legally, they just up the ante with 10 more lawyers,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
they
if
go to
they
war
run out of
against
legal
you.
funds, they just get more funds to replace what they spent.
And it's endless. It's just endless. And
is.
and they never admit that they're wrong. They always insist that they're right. And then if you criticize them, they try and shut down the cameras, or they try and get you fired, or they pass a new resolution that says you're not allowed to say anything, either in public or in private. It's totally fascistic, Nora.
It really is. Either that or they harass your kids. No kidding. I had that experience. Unbelievable, If
They
you
harassed
challenge
your
them in
children.
court, look out. Yes. If you challenge them, look out.
How did that manifest itself? School employees started saying things to your kids or something?
Oh, yeah. Bullying him. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
That's awful.
It was wild. At a good school, but we got a couple of them in on their little gig. It is truly amazing. Fairfax County is just like Loudoun,
I know. You're right about that.
They're
That's unfortunate. Yeah, we try and cover these stories as they pop up, and there are so many of them. This time, it's Abbie Platt's turn to be put through the ringer. She's fighting back for herself and for her family, and we'll keep covering it. Nora, thank you. I appreciate your call.
Okay.
That's Nora in Clifton. All right, coming up, we're going to be joined by an attorney for the family of Rachel Morin. You know Rachel Morin as the Maryland mother who was murdered this past year by an illegal alien. Randolph Rice, the family attorney, he joins us next. Another big story in America. We cover it live. Hey, good afternoon to you. It is 4:35 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We're making sense of the news. Coming up today, we'll talk the economy with E.J. Antoni at the top of the hour, and we'll talk to you at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. We've been talking about the life and death of a Maryland mother named Rachel Morin at the hands, officials say, of an illegal alien who crossed into the United States in February of last year. Here is how that issue was covered earlier this week on CNN. Jim Acosta speaking to the DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
I do want to ask you about the murder of this Maryland mother that has been in the news. It's gotten a lot of attention. She was killed last year. An undocumented immigrant was just arrested in her death last week. He's suspected of multiple crimes since he crossed the border illegally in early 2023. Obviously, we know that the studies show that undocumented immigrants don't commit more crimes statistically than native-born U.S. citizens. But what do you say to critics who blame the administration for allowing something like this to happen? Yeah, obviously, this is something that you hear in right-wing media all the time.
Jim, first and foremost, of course, our hearts break for the children, the family, the loved ones, the friends of the individual who was murdered, the woman, the mother. Jim, a criminal is responsible for the criminal act. The criminal who committed this heinous act should be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law, and forcefully so. That is my response.
Neither man saying the name Rachel Morin. Let's bring in an attorney for the Morin family now. Randolph Rice joins us on the phone. Sir, good to have you with us. Thank you for spending some time today.
Thanks, Vince.
Give me, if you would, sort of, first of all, let's just begin with Rachel. Tell me who Rachel was.
Sure. She was a mother of 5 children, 37 years old. She owned a cleaning company, both residential and commercial. Very active, physically fit. I'm sure you've seen the pictures. She spent a lot of time working out. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that was what put her in the position to where this individual jumped or, attacked her on the trail while she was jogging on the Monpaw Trail. which was a common thing for her to do. This was a normal activity where she would go out, get her exercise in, have a little time to herself. And in fact, this was a trail that she'd grown up on. Her mother would take the kids on. She has 5 siblings. That she would take those children after dinner, and they would go walk on this trail. So this was a sacred place to her. And this man, the suspect, took away her life.
And it was not only a sacred but a safe place. She had been there many times, based on that description.
Sure.
Feeling safe in doing so. And now a foreign national who should not have been in the country at all took her life away.
Right. And that's really one of the big stories here, is that here's an individual who all reports indicate he did attempt to cross the border 3 times. Obviously, he made it across in February of 2023. Now, 1 month before this, he's alleged to have killed a woman. And I'll tell you this, Vince, I just got back in the door from the bail review where new evidence was released that the woman he killed there, they were met at a bar, and he ultimately is accused of killing her. There's an Interpol warrant for him out of El Salvador, but he crosses in February of 23. He goes to Los Angeles, and in March of 23, he attacks a woman and her 9-year-old daughter, sexually assaults him. He then makes his way all the way across the country, and in August of 23, he attacks, rapes, and murders Rachel Morin. The prosecutor today said that she had 10 to 15 bruises and injuries to her head, and ultimately she was dragged into the woods and hidden in a storage or a drain culvert underneath the Bel Air bypass. So he then disappears again for 10 months, and the detectives and the FBI are able to track him down using some really neat technology and genealogy to find family members who live in Maryland. And they ultimately were able to get he had some clothing there he left behind, and that clothing gave them the DNA link that they got from the crime scene in Los Angeles and the crime scene here in Maryland where he was alleged to have killed Rachel.
You mentioned that there was an Interpol warrant put out for his arrest. Do you know what date that Interpol warrant was disseminated?
We don't. We don't know when it was put out, so certainly that would have been something very helpful had ICE contacted him at the border and said, wait a second, we see you have an Interpol warrant out of El Salvador. We're not going to let you into this country. But he was, from what reports I've read, he was stopped at least 3 times and turned back or sent back across the border out of America.
It is a nightmare that this occurred. How does the family process the reality that the Biden administration took this man into custody and then released him into the United States?
I think that they are just beside themselves that this was preventable. I mean, and Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter. This is an American problem that Americans should be able to fix, and we are just hemorrhaging at the southern border, and Washington is arguing over what color Band-Aid to put on this flow, and instead they should be applying a tourniquet and stopping this stream of individuals, some of which obviously are committing crimes, the fentanyl, the human trafficking, the individuals that obviously have Interpol warrants out of El Salvador. They should be stopped.
You know, you're right that they should apply a tourniquet to the gushing border. But I think one of the realities here, unfortunately, is that the Biden administration is responsible for slicing it open. You have Alejandro Mayorkas, who I just played a clip from him on CNN earlier this week, who wouldn't say the name Rachel Morin. I'm not certain he even knew it as he was doing that interview. But the truth is, this is a guy who has announced that illegal entry into the country alone is not a basis for deportation, and has really brought this border into chaos. When you hear him talking like he did earlier this week on CNN, what did you think?
Well, I know Patty was just distraught over it because they couldn't identify Rachel as a person. She was just an individual. She was just a thing. It wasn't somebody. It wasn't an American. It wasn't a citizen here trying to go and enjoy her run on a trail. It was just a statistic almost to them. And I can tell you that there has been no contact from the Biden administration to the Rachel Morin family. Our office has heard nothing. But Patty Morin, who is Rachel's mother, out of the blue receives a phone call from President Trump wishing, offering condolences, talking about Rachel. Nothing political in the conversation, lasted 20 minutes, asked about Rachel, asked about, her background, the family, how they're doing. And that meant a lot to Patty because, as she said, somebody who has some power and is important, cared, knew her name, and wanted to know about Rachel.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Has the family sought any information from DHS about the release of Rachel Morin's killer? Are you looking for contact with the federal government at all on this subject?
We have not, and I got to tell you, Vince, they really have just been processing the fact that he got arrested Friday night.
Yes.
We just had the bail review all of an hour and a half ago. Judge Miller in Harford County issued no bail, the defendant to be held without bail, citing public safety and obviously flight risk. We learned a little bit more about him. He's 23. He's got a 3-year-old daughter. We don't know where the daughter is. So a little more information is coming out about this man.
Yes.
But it's going to be a long road for the Morins. It really is, because this is day one, and this is the first time that Patty and the family saw this man. Now, granted, it was by Zoom, so it wasn't face to face, but they got to look at this man in a black and white striped jumpsuit, handcuffed in the Harford County Detention Center, and see the man who is alleged to have killed their daughter.
So there's some details today, also during the court hearing, where we're finding out that he stayed near the scene of the crime for some time, that he didn't seem that worried about the crime and then being caught in the area?
Well, he had been staying with his family in Maryland. We don't know the exact details of where they were living, but we do know that he was with his family and left sometime in May 2024 and traveled to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where they ultimately found him. So the police were right after that time he left. They arrived and were able to interview the family members, glean. Remember, we had DNA, we had the doorbell camera, but we didn't have a name. And the detectives were then able to glean the name from that investigation with the family, which then put them on the scent to Tulsa, which led the FBI to grabbing him at the bar last Friday night.
What kind of consequences is he looking at as a result of these charges?
Sure. So he's facing 6 charges right now: first and second degree murder, first and second degree rape, first and second degree assault. The first degree murder and first degree rape both carry a life sentence. Second degree rape, 40 years. Second degree murder, 40 years. Second degree rape, 20 years. Assault, 25, and then second degree assault, 10. The worst is life without parole. Obviously, Maryland does not have the death penalty anymore, so the worst that he can receive, or the highest sentence, would be life without parole, and that's if the state serves notice that they are seeking life without parole.
And like so many of these courtroom proceedings, I don't think we probably won't have an answer quickly on this. It's going to take some time for this to work its way through the court, right?
It will. There will be probably a grand jury within the next couple of weeks. There is a preliminary hearing set for July 18th. That probably will not happen. They'll probably take the case before a grand jury. He'll be indicted. That will set the wheels in motion for another bail review hearing in the circuit court, scheduling conferences, motions hearings. I've told the family this could be 6 months to 18 months because of postponement requests by defense. At this point, he is represented by the public defender, so they've obviously got to go through 10 months plus of evidence that the Sheriff's Department has been collecting.
Lastly, before we let you go, and thank you, Randolph Rice, again, an attorney for the Morin family, the family of Rachel Morin. We got another story this morning of yet another, this time a 12-year-old girl in Houston who was found strangled to death in a creek this week. The accused in her murder are 2 Venezuelan illegal aliens, and both in their 20s. And they face capital murder charges themselves. As I keep seeing these stories, whether it's Rachel Morin or in this case 12-year-old Jocelyn Anungare, I can't help but notice what you said earlier in this interview, Randolph, which is these were preventable. This is a choice. This is a policy choice that allowed these things to happen.
That's right. This is not natural disaster. This is not a flood, a hurricane, a tornado. This is not putting your seatbelt on and preventing something bad from happening. And this is 100% preventable. That Biden administration can sign an executive order, close the border, reset, pause. We're not saying you don't need to have reasonable immigration policies. We need that. But stop the flow so we can prevent more murders.
Randolph Rice, an attorney for the Morin family, thank you for your time today, sir. Really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Vince. Appreciate it.
That's Randolph Rice, and that family is really going through it right now. Just the horror of losing Rachel, and this is Biden's fault. This is Joe Biden's fault. They made a conscious decision to open up this border. All of these people were in the custody of the Biden administration and then released. And there's just countless stories like this. Many of the names, quite unfortunately, we'll end up forgetting because there's just too many victims. But we're going to try and bring attention to these ones as we find out about them because we need a fix, and quickly. 4-4. All right, coming up in the next hour, we've got E.J. Antoni talking to us about the economy, Donald Trump's plans for your taxes. He wants to get rid of income taxes entirely. And he said he wants to raise revenue for the federal government through the use of tariffs. We'll discuss that with E.J. Antoni, get a sense of that, and so much more. Also, the debate is going to take place next week. I've got some news for you on that, including why Joe Biden decided to go with the podium as his priority. They want to be on the stage right. They want Joe over stage right on camera. Why? Why did they even spend time worrying about that? There are some theories out there. The left is spinning it already. I'll tell you all about that, too. Speaking of the debate, Alan is calling in from San Diego now on line one. Alan, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Colonnese Show. Hello, Alan.
Hey, Vince. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you great, Alan. What's on your mind?
Great. So regarding this debate and the early timing, the podium, all of that,
yeah.
I think that Trump should go ahead and ask for drug testing, not to go get it, but he should ask for it just to see how they would respond.
Sure.
And then secondly, I think that what could possibly happen is that, and the reason why he picked podium instead of second or finishing arguments,
closing statements. Yeah.
This is supposed to be bigger than a Super Bowl. It's going to be really watched. Perfect timing to go ahead and introduce Michelle or Newsom or somebody different, and that would, because they've already said that the mainstream media is already saying, and there's going to be a physical change, and that would account for a physical change. All right.
Yes, it would.
So then, so Trump, I think, should be ready for that, and if they go ahead and if they walk somebody else out, then he would just have a knowing nod and say, "Yep, here we go. I expected this. Let's go." And rather than being shocked, because certainly that would shock everybody. Democrats and Republicans, the mainstream would blow it up like crazy.
Yeah.
So
you really think by next week? You think by next week that they'll do this? That literally it's that close that they're going to put the hook on Biden and replace him with, say, Michelle Obama or somebody else?
It would be sensational. The biggest audience, they need, if they're going to try and replace him, they need to do that, and this would be perfect timing. It would be it would be so sensational that then everybody would get all excited.
Although there is some thinking that part of this, the reason they're doing it early is this is the last chance to kick the tires on the guy and to see if he can roll across the finish line. And if that debate goes even a little bit poorly for Joe next week, it may serve as the predicate to do the very thing you're talking about. Perhaps the second debate will have a different featured performer. Thank you, Alan. Yeah, we'll look out for that. That's the kind of prediction I like because we can easily check it. It might happen next week, and I'll probably remember it. Only a week? I think I could do it. All right, coming up, E.J. Antoni will be with us. We'll talk about the state of the economy. Joe Biden's been lying about job creation, and President Trump has a big plan to get rid of the income tax. Take us back to the way America used to be. No federal income tax. We'll discuss.